the biggest lesson, regardless of the industry, whether it's higher ed or healthcare, really comes down to the people. The people is really what makes the environment. If you got some really great people that you work with, it makes the challenging times of what we all deal with on a day-to-day basis in facilities a lot more bearable. Having people that can bring a lot of ideas, a lot of thought to the table, really can help us streamline some of our projects, some of our activities, some of the challenges we see. So it really comes down to the people, and really trying to get them to grow as individuals is always an important piece of mine as well. This team here at BMC is incredible with the challenges we face day in and day out. It really comes down to interacting with the group here, not just the managers, but down to our mechanics and our technicians. They really make it worth coming in every day.
This is Facility Rockstars, the podcast that celebrates the unsung heroes of our daily lives, facility professionals. I'm your host, Jay Culbert. Join me as we honor these great leaders, sharing stories, insights, and expertise that empower us all to learn and grow together. Facility Rockstars is sponsored by Coludus, operating the way you operate in order to make your life easier. Welcome back to Facility Rockstars. I'm your host, Jay Culbert, and today's guest is a facilities mastermind. I can't wait to introduce him. He's a seasoned professional whose career spans decades in optimizing facilities, construction, and property management across a spectrum of industries. From overseeing general management to engineering and design-build construction, he has navigated complex landscapes with finesse. His leadership has been instrumental in implementing preventive maintenance strategies and optimizing company growth. He is the Senior Facilities Manager at Boston Medical Center. Cory Pouliot, welcome to the show.
Great. Thank you. It's nice being here.
Of course. Thanks for coming. Thanks for investing your time with us today, Cory. So you've got a plethora of experience, years and different experiences, and I can't wait to dig into all of it with you, Cory. The first question is this, right? With all your experience, what has been your biggest lesson learned?
So I think the biggest lesson, regardless of the industry, whether it's higher ed or healthcare, really comes down to the people. The people is really what makes the environment. If you got some really great people that you work with, it makes the challenging times of what we all deal with on a day-to-day basis in facilities a lot more bearable. Having people that can bring a lot of ideas, a lot of thought to the table, really can help us streamline some of our projects, some of our activities, some of the challenges we see. So it really comes down to the people, and really trying to get them to grow as individuals is always an important piece of mine as well. But yeah, I can't do it. Like I said, we talked earlier, this team here at BMC is incredible. With the challenges we face day in and day out, it really comes down to interacting with the group here, not just the managers, but down to our mechanics and our technicians. They really make it worth coming in every day.
Fantastic. We hear a lot on the show about the people and the teams, and clearly you've developed quite a team around you, Cory, to get everything done and work well together. What advice would you give, or what best practices have you put in place so someone who's listening can actually say, all right, that's how we develop something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I like getting to know my team, kind of understand where they come from, because, everyone comes in, they do their 8, 10, 12 hours, and you don't know what they've got going on behind the scenes and what stresses or challenges they may have. So again, I'm not trying to be everyone's best friend, and I'm not everyone's drinking buddy, but at the end of the day, I want to understand where they're coming from, understand what challenges they may have, and what opportunities they're looking for. I really like to make sure that I'm challenging people, that they can really step up, and really provide some input and information that's going to make us better and stronger as a team, especially for the organization. Some of the things I like to do is, again, we're all people at the end of the day. We go home, we put in our time. Simple things, it sounds simple, but, you treat people like people. One of the things I started doing here when I got here, and even when I was in my earlier time at Tufts, was, during the summer, especially in facility management, it's a hot environment. We're in mechanical rooms, we're in steam vaults, we're all over the place. And, I told everyone, I said, why don't we, between Memorial Day and Labor Day, why don't we wear like something like a polo shirt? There's plenty of time to wear tie and long sleeve shirts, in the fall and the winter. Don't get me wrong, there's times where I have to go to meetings and I do have to wear a suit, but, for, a hot August day, polo shirt is great. And it's things like that that the team really appreciates because I'm seeing what they're going through, and it was received very well. Some of the other things, I like open them up to educations. I get a lot of opportunities to go to different conferences and events, and whether I'm speaking or simply attending at them, I like to invite members of the team to come and attend those as well. It's an opportunity for them to pick up some knowledge, maybe make some contacts in the industry, maybe look at some things a little bit different that I may not have opportunity to do. And I think they like to have that opportunity to just be part of the team and and get outside and see what other people are doing and what's coming down the road within the industry. So letting them have that opportunity to get off campus once in a while and see what's going on in the bigger picture.
I'm sure they appreciate that.
Yeah, I really think they do. I think it helps them, see what else is out there and, and bring some technology back.
Mhm. I just want to jump back quickly to something you said a few minutes ago, and you encourage them to share their ideas. How
Yeah,
do you get like
absolutely.
how do you actually create an environment where they can do that, Cory?
So what I do is I meet with my management team every week. And so we sit right here in the office around table and we have challenges. We have things that we're looking at. Maybe it's estimations and budgeting or it's projects we have coming up. And the real question is then, okay, how do we want to tackle this? What's the best way to tackle it? There's probably a half a different ways to skin that cat. And, I want to hear from them because at the end of the day, they may be the one running that particular project. I want to hear their thoughts, and they can learn from other people who may not have as much experience in that particular line or that particular industry to really learn and grow a little bit from the input that other people in their team might have.
Hmm.
And I meet with the mechanics and the technicians a couple times throughout the year. We do a lunch, we do a barbecue, and I share with them. I have a full agenda and I bring with them, look, here's our budget. Here's where we are. You know, Big part of our budget, as everyone's budget is, labor. It's the
Hmm.
overtime, it's those types of things. And I share with them exactly where we are with our spend, where we are with our where we have remaining funds left, how we want to look at spending those, especially if we're looking to reinvest within the department for new tools. Really getting their feedback, but also making them apart to say, look, we're all in this together. If you're telling me you need to 8 hours to do a job and you could probably get it done in maybe 6 or 4, that really equates to real dollars and cents that we can put somewhere else in the department. And, I think the team really appreciates that, having that voice, where sometimes in the past, some organizations, they don't have that voice. So it's
Hmm.
important for them to have that opportunity.
It sounds like you'd be a lot more productive and ultimately save budgetary money as well, amongst many other things.
Yeah, and having them feel like part of a team. In healthcare, things happen around the clock here, and you have to call people in of all hours of the day, and you want them to answer the phone. You want them to feel committed and have that buy-in to the department and into the hospital. And by doing that, they will answer the phone. They will
Mhm.
come in at 2 o'clock in the morning when there's a problem. So, it's those types of things. Because I've been in other organizations when I've gotten there, when I first started, you try and call people, it's like you're not reaching anybody. It's after their 8 hours. They put the phones away.
Mm.
So
You you just led into my next question. What's the biggest difference in facilities management in a healthcare or medical environment versus, an office or a lab?
yeah. So when it comes down to it, a building's a building for the most part. You got your envelope, you got your systems. Um, but in the healthcare setting, unlike I could in higher ed, if I have a problem in a building, I don't get the luxury of being able to send people home or closing a building. We have to find the problem, we have to work through the problem, we have to resolve the problems. And doing all that while maintaining patient care levels, making sure people are safe, the environment is safe for not only the patients but our staff. So those are the types of challenges. It's a 24/7 operation. You don't at 5 o'clock when you leave at the end of the night. Everyone doesn't go home with you. A lot of people still stay here. So, um, I think that's the biggest challenge. I try to share with my folks here the opportunity, like think about that being your spouse, your child, your grandmother that's in the ICU, that's on the operating table, coming into the emergency department, really needing care and services. Um, you want to make sure that we're 100% all the time ready to receive them, ready to give them the best care they can get.
Mm, outstanding. I have a question on that about communication, Cory. So, You mentioned 2, 3 in the morning and availability. What is your communication tree, or what's your system? What could you share with the listeners about how you create an environment for effective communication in healthcare or otherwise?
Yeah, so here we're lucky enough we have coverage around the clock 24/7. I know that's a luxury that not every facility has, but here at the hospital we do. But we also have a manager on call that's, they expected to be on call to answer the phone when it rings. Um, we also have staff that are on standby if we need them, specifically in the trades, electricians, HVAC mechanics, things of that nature. Because, even though we are 24/7, we do run a little bit more of a skeleton crew on third shift and some of the weekends and things like that. Um, but they do run on call. I joke with my team, I'm not placed on that on call list because I am on call every day. I
Mhm.
joke with them. I said, at the end of the night when I go to bed, I turn my notifications off. I turn everything off and I turn my ringer up. And I said, if it's really an emergency, you're not emailing me, you're not texting, you're calling me. And
Mm.
I will answer the phone. I have it, I'm on vacation next week and I told them, this time I'm not going away really far. I'll be local. I'll have my phone with me if you need me. We have other people that are out on medical leave or things going on. We're a little shorthanded right now. So I understand that, and I think they appreciate that, knowing they have someone that's there, and they know they're not going to call me for simple things. They're going to call me for the bigger issues.
Sure.
So having someone standing by ready to pick up the call to just give them that little extra support or help when they need it, or maybe a little more direction. So
Speaking of direction, if someone's on call, are they a quote jack of all trades, or what if they run into what happens when they run into something that they can't personally solve at 2:30 a.m.? What do they do?
they have myself, and we have a director of the department that is kind of takes care of the day-to-day operations. We're always on call 24/7. Even my managers that are not on call will pick up the phone. We've had incidences here, minor disasters and floods and things like that that happen. And on a Saturday night at 8 o'clock, you place the call and people will answer it. And
Mhm.
um, they have those resources to reach out to. We have a very good contractor list that we can reach out to, vendors that will open up supply houses for us in the middle of the night if we need them to. It's really about having that relationship, and knowing, who you can ask, when you can ask. Um, it's gone a long way, and I think that's the other nice thing is they're not shy to ask a question if they don't know. I have like I said, I can't talk enough about my team, but a lot of them are engineers. They came from, engineering backgrounds, and I do have a couple that are not. They're more of our compliance, more of our administrative management team, and they take call. And you know what? They're pretty comfortable on call. They've picked up a lot while they've been here, and they know they can reach out or give someone a call and maybe figure out who the best contractor might need to be if they need to call someone in, or what staff person they might want to call in. So I think they've gotten comfortable in that role as well.
I love that you touched on relationships. You have a supply house that would open up in the middle of the night for you, and that says a lot about you guys as a team and what you've created. Because being a vendor myself, it's a two-way street, and we help each other. And clearly, you're helping them and giving them a good path to success as well if they're opening in the middle of the night for you. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. It's about having those relationships there, being able to rely on them when you need them, and some of these vendors are not our biggest vendors. We don't do huge volumes of business with them, but we do, we cut the occasional POs, but if we need to, they don't have a problem picking up the phone when we need to call. They know if we're calling them, it's an emergency, and
mhm,
they want to do their part as well. And a lot of these are local, probably within a 2, 3, 4, 5 mile radius of the hospital.
great. It's a busy place you're at down there. There's a lot going on in that
Ye-
neighborhood.
Yes, there is all the time, 24 hours a day.
Yeah, so I want to go all the way up to your rooftop, Cory, because if I recall correctly, when we talked maybe a few weeks ago, you mentioned, is there a garden? And I want to talk about sustainability. How does sustainability manifest itself in your facility, in your world, and what impacts does that have?
couple things. Yeah. So sustainability is the cornerstone for Boston Medical Center. I mean, that's been one of the things that we've really made our mark in healthcare, or at least on the facilities and operations side. That the clinical side can speak for themselves. They're cutting edge. They're the best. But from the sustainable standpoint, we really made a name for ourselves. We're the greenest hospital in New England. We are constantly being recognized for the programs that we initiated and put out. We opened a net zero behavioral health hospital down in Brockton year and a half ago. Like you had mentioned, we have our rooftop garden, which is part of our nutrition prescription program. So folks that are coming out of the hospital and need to see and work with a nutritionist, we actually have a food pantry and a nutritionist that gives them almost like a prescription to go down to the pantry to get what they need to bring home. We produce over 5,000 pounds of fresh produce out of our garden a year. And the good news is we've tripled the size of our garden this summer. We've opened
Hmm.
up a new garden on a new building, and we're expecting to see over 15,000 pounds of produce to come in. And the goal is to really distribute it to the community before it perishes. That's going to be a big challenge for us. As I like to tell people, as far as I know, we're the only hospital that I know of, not just necessarily in New England, that has a farm manager on the payroll. We keep a farm manager here. But going back to the sustainability piece, we look at everything because the way I see it and the mentality here is for every dollar I can save on utilities and initiatives that we're looking to do, that's a dollar that goes back into patient care. If I'm
Hmm.
not having to spend a couple $100,000 in steam or electricity or gas buying this year, that could go towards a new MRI. That could go towards a new dialysis unit. That could go towards a lot of things that the community really needs here. So we need to be smart about it. And that's kind of been my mentality from the beginning, getting into the industry is look, if I'm running my facilities smart and I'm running my energy efficiency as high as possible, I am saving dollars, whether it be a gallon of water I'm flushing down a toilet that I'm not having to pay sewer and water charges for, or it's a kilowatt hour that I never need to use, I'm saving money. So that's money. It's really important here because, as we talked about before, Boston Medical Center is a safety net hospital. So, we don't have really deep pockets. We don't have a lot of patients coming in with private insurance and things of that nature. We're dealing with a lot of payments from, Medicare, Medicaid type programs. So,
Amazing. And you answered the question of how unique is a garden on the rooftop, and you're adding another one. And what I heard was tripling the produce and the yield of the crop. A farm manager on staff. Who came up with all of this? How did you develop it?
So I can't I can't really take credit for that. That was from my boss, Bob Biggio. That was his brainchild to start the garden. And like I mentioned, we have the new building down the street with about an additional 5,000 square feet of garden space. We also started there, the first in the nation, a clean power prescription program. And what this really is it's kind of like think of it as community solar. But we're the
Mhm.
only investors, Boston Medical Center, and our patients are the recipients of those credits. So what we found was a lot of our patients were having a hard time, difficult challenges with paying, had a financial challenge with paying utility bills, and they weren't running the medical equipment at home that they needed to run because they couldn't afford it.
Hmm.
So the doctors got together and made us aware of the program that, we'd like to have a way where we could provide them like electricity, like we do with the garden. We give them free vegetables and produce. And so we set this up working with Eversource, where, we set it up, we funded it, and, about 80 individuals get about a $50 a month credit on their electric bill based on the solar that we produce on that roof.
Hmm.
So, like most organizations, it started out as a power purchase agreement. We were going to hire someone, put the solar up there, and just get cheap energy from them.
Mhm.
And really, what it turned out to be, we invested in it completely, and we had that credit, and we wanted to give it back to the community and to the folks that really needed it.
It's amazing. What advice would you give if someone listening wanted to start up the nutritionist? It's amazing, the prescriptions that you're giving right on
Yeah.
site, or if they wanted to do something with Eversource. Is there anything to say about that?
They can look at our website. There's a lot of information on Boston Medical Center sustainability piece on our website. We've actually, like I said, it's really been our cornerstone here, so much to the point that we've kind of broken off and we've started a separate consulting group in conjunction with a funding group that can provide this type of information to other healthcare facilities, kind of take our best practices, our lessons learned, and work with them and try to, replicate similar programs or look at new programs, things that
Hmm.
might fit their environment a little bit better. So we've been working with that group. It is made up from some people here that support that endeavor. Um, so there are avenues to look at. You can absolutely reach out to me, but I said, looking at our website's probably a good place to start.
Great. Excellent. I want to jump back again because you're sharing a ton of great stuff with us. So you mentioned if you can save a gallon that doesn't get flushed down the toilet, that doesn't need to happen. How do you, this is a common topic, right? How do we track things in facilities and how do you track that? How do you measure things? Could you please speak about that?
Yeah, so, it goes back to that old adage, you can't manage what you can't measure. So really
Hmm.
for us, a lot of it comes down to sub-metering, really understanding where, every last kilowatt's going, where every gallon of water is going. We're in a unique situation here because this is the old city hospital campus with Boston University, so we share a lot of space with BU. And, we're in some of their buildings, they're in some of our buildings. There's some buildings we own jointly. So there's a lot of sub-metering in those buildings. So we can really keep track of it and really understand where we're using it, and more importantly, with technology today and AI, being able to build the algorithms that let you know, like, hey, you're trending above consumption levels that are typical for this time of year. Electrical loads will be a little bit higher in the summer, but we want to make sure we've accounted for that. So we're working with one of our vendors, Veolia, who helps us with some of our sub metering,
Sure. Hmm.
and they're letting us know now if we're starting to reach or basically exceed some of our levels. We'll be notified in it, when it's happening, because there's nothing worse than getting your electric bill a month later and saying, "Whoa, wait a minute, what happened this day?" And we've been consuming all this extra electricity to find out that, maybe it was something simple we could have turned off or changed or modified in some way that we could have addressed sooner. So, really being able to sub-meter and then having the algorithm and the technology behind it to really utilize it the best. Because, even the sub-metering is only good if you're using it.
You just touched on AI, and we hadn't previously discussed this, but how do you see it showing up in facilities? How do you say, you just mentioned one way it shows up, but do you utilize it in other ways?
Yeah, I think for us, the big part of my piece is really looking at energy efficiency, building optimization, and understanding where I can, save some dollars. How
Hmm.
can I use that tool that I've got to really almost pay for itself and save me some money? And we're looking at that right now, a couple different platforms that will help us modify and adjust our building automation programs, adjusting set points and temperatures a little bit without really impacting the overall performance of the system or the comfort of the folks, the patients and the staff in the buildings. And, a few adjustments here and there throughout the course of the day, it really translates to real dollars. So we're watching that as well.
Good for you. Good for you. I'm going to shift on you a little bit, or before we really shift to another endeavor you've been in for years. Um, what are your most common challenges? And the reason I ask you this is I said earlier, "How's your day?" and you shared a challenge, right? So, what's the most common challenge you're seeing? What advice would you give on how to handle it? Because you resolved it before we got on the call
Yeah.
here.
Um, we face a lot of challenge. I guess generically, the biggest challenge I've seen in a lot of industries has really been, budgeting and financing.
Hmm.
I have, like every place, I have a long list of capital items that I need to budget and plan for. There's parts of my building that are, 3 times older than myself. Um, and understanding how we can spend that money wisely, that's a big challenge. But not only having that challenge, because I understand it, is how do I communicate that challenge to the finance team? Like, how do I
Hmm.
make people understand that, look, when I go to these meetings and they say, okay, yeah, here's what we have in the pot for capital for this year, here's the bucket, and facilities has requested, 80% of it. And I said, whoa, 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 wait a minute. Let's think that through for a minute. Every dollar I'm requesting, it's not for me to have new tools for my guys or new equipment. A lot of this is actually improvements into your buildings, into your equipment, into your departments, into, the infrastructure in our building. One of the jokes I used to like to tell them when I was back in Hawaii was, I would love to see the hospital buy that new $3 million MRI or that new Da Vinci surgical robot, but if I don't get the money to modernize my elevators, you will never get the patient up to the third floor to go to the OR or
Hmm.
to the second floor into imaging. Um, so that's kind of how to get the point across for some people, but being able to speak to your finance team and to, the controllers and your CFO so that they understand, look, we have to make that investment because it then comes down to uptime, and that's where the revenue
Mhm.
comes in. So
Mhm.
if I can provide better uptime for different departments and different systems, you know, that's where the money is going to start to come from, and people will start to understand that we do need to make those investments. I was talking to someone the other day. No one will donate funding to go to a ribbon cutting for a new roof or a new chiller. It just doesn't happen. Um, but
Never seen one.
no, but I will be honest, our Brockton facility, our net zero building that I spoke to you about, was originally designed as a conventional building with chillers and boilers and um, typical systems you would find. And it was only through a very generous gift to the hospital from a donor who wanted to see the money spent in a sustainable type of program or fashion. And this was the perfect opportunity. We could afford to make the upgrades to make this into a net zero building um, because of that gift. So, it does have some payback at that point, being
That's
able to,
great.
work that into our programs. So,
You guys are doing so many amazing things there. It's incredible. Thanks for sharing all of that, Cory.
yeah.
We can certainly come right back to this if you like, but I wanted to showcase the fact that you also teach facilities management at a local college, and if you could speak on that a little bit about many times we hear it's difficult to get new talent into the talent pool, and people are retiring yet we're not replacing them, and it's amazing that you're teaching at a local college or a reputable one. What would you say about that?
Yeah, so I teach at Wentworth Institute of Technology. I've been teaching there, probably the last 10 years since I moved back from Hawaii. I actually taught there before I moved to Hawaii, so I've been there a while and teaching in their facilities management program, the construction management program, and even finance to some degree in some of their grad programs. Um, I think a lot of the students that I get, because I tend to teach in the evening, so it is an undergrad program, but these are a lot of individuals who are working full-time jobs and, pursuing a degree after hours in the evenings and on even on weekends in some cases. Um, it's great talking to them because I'm getting people from all different industries.
Hmm.
I got a lot of people from the trades and things like that, but I got one person, they were a hairdresser. She was a
Hmm.
hairdresser and she wanted to learn facility management, which was fantastic.
Yeah,
Um, but talking to them is great for me because it kind of keeps me with my ear to the ground to see what's going on and what's happening out there. Um, but it also gives me an opportunity to share with people, working in healthcare, working in higher ed, um, sharing some of the real world experiences that look, I don't know if facilities ever sounds glamorous or anything, but, sharing some of the real world things that happen and some of the things that come up and the things we deal with on a daily basis, not to scare them, but really to set the expectation.
sure.
Um, so I enjoy it because I get to connect with people and share some of those experiences, and really I think I come away with just as much as they do, understanding their background and what they've been through and some of the experiences they've had as well.
Outstanding. And if I recall correctly, did you share that the college is asking you to teach a master class and you're debating this?
Yeah, I've taught in the master's program, and they really want me to push the master's program that they have, which is a great program. I'm a little biased because I did my master's at a different school, and so, um, but again, great program. I still actually we use Wentworth interns. I get Wentworth interns from Wentworth. I get them from the Maritime Academy. So I when we look for interns, we want to make sure we got someone that has that right skill set here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not to knock any of the other schools out there, but having someone that has some hands-on experience is always helpful when we bring them in.
Outstanding. You're doing some great stuff. Great stuff. You mentioned the Maritime Academy, and that kind of brings me to shift a little bit more. What got you here? What would you want to share about yourself? We've learned so much from you. What could we learn more about you, Cory?
Yeah. I did go to the Maritime Academy, and there's no hiding that. My undergrad and graduate programs through there. Um, Pretty simple. I did spend some time, like I mentioned, out in Hawaii for about 7 years, and that was a really great experience. I was younger and no family, and it was that right opportunity where, hey, let's just pick up what we've got and we're going to go to Hawaii. And depending on the timing and things, we might have still have been there, but like to travel, like to do a lot of home projects. They never see. When I get home, there's always a list of things to get done. So just renovated a bathroom, and so what I do every day kind of follows me at home.
Well, that
So
says you enjoy it. That's
yeah,
my translation.
or maybe I'm just too cheap to pay someone else to do it.
That could be the other reason. Sure.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, so, typical things, just like to stay busy and, try to enjoy, like this week, we finally got some decent weather.
Hmm.
Like I said, I'll be taking some vacation time next week. Hopefully the weather will hold. I could see it raining and being 90 degrees next week with my luck.
Cory, you shared so much. That's just a plethora of knowledge you just gave myself and all the listeners. So, what's the best way for someone to reach out if someone has more questions? I mean, we can get a transcript of the show, of course, but how would you want people to reach out to you?
They can reach out. I do have a LinkedIn profile, so that LinkedIn is one way to get a hold of me. They can email me at cory.pouliot@bmc.org. Those are probably the two best ways to get a hold of me.
Outstanding. I can't thank you enough, Cory. Thank you so much for
Sure.
being on the show.
No, it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Myself included. And thank you to our listeners. If you learned something today, if you liked something you heard, tell someone about the podcast. Cory, thank you again. It's been another amazing episode of Facility Rockstars. We'll see everyone next time. It's a wrap. Another episode of Facility Rockstars is in the books. Facility Rockstars is sponsored by Colutus, operating the way you operate in order to make your life easier. Until next time, facilitate and rock on.